Great God day, my great and amazing and wonderful and beautiful friends. Welcome back to a new series and the storied annals of Hey You Get Out of the Porta Potty history. These next 4 to 6 videos are just going to be random musings and really amazing lessons I've learned over 2022. The first video is going to be the longest. The other ones I'm committed to 2 minutes or under, but this is a doozy. For the majority of my life, like many of you, I've had faith. Well, a few weeks ago, the week of Father's Day, my faith was replaced with a knowing. And I meant to share this story with you today because there's a strong likelihood if you're watching this video, you're an angel and you don't even know it. What do I mean? In 2019, in Florida, it was hurricane season. And I had been tasked with giving a speech to a power company during hurricane season. Well, as fate would have it, a hurricane rolled through that week and all travel was canceled, which resulted in me needing to give this speech the Friday before Thanksgiving week. The important part of that story is, normally I like to hang around after a speech and talk to everyone, but this required pretty much a quick in and out as I needed to get home to see my kids as they were about to go on break. So I deliver the speech. It was on work-life satisfaction, and as I'm leaving, this young lady, we'll call her Grace, ran up to me and said, "That was beautiful. I know you're in a hurry. Yell me your phone number because I'm going to text you later, get your address, and I want to mail you a gift," which ultimately ended up being a book that she had written. Well, never talked to Grace again after that. She was just a person in an audience. Well, that week of Father's Day, back to 2022, I had a very busy day as I was headed to New York City. It was on a Thursday. It was basically 7:30 in the morning till 5 o'clock straight. My 11 a.m. client, an incredibly consistent young man named Ben. Well, Ben texted me shortly before his appointment. "I'm so sorry, the strangest thing happened and I've got to miss." And I said, "No worries, how's Monday, 1:15? To which he took it. I was looking forward to getting an hour break. It was a really long day and I'd overbooked myself. Well, at that precise time, this person who I hadn't spoken to in 3 years texted me at that number. "Do you have a few minutes to talk?" Well, I just assumed she was going to be a new client, and while I really wanted to eat lunch, I knew if I didn't call her right then and there, it wasn't going to happen at the end of the day as family life, and then I knew I was going to be in New York. So I called her, and she yelled out, "Praise God, praise God, praise God," 3 times. I could tell she was crying. And I thought it was very unique, the timing of all of this. And when she finally came to, she said, "I can't believe you're available to talk in my time of need." And I said, "Why are you crying?" And she immediately told me something that made me feel sick to my stomach, that her husband had passed away. And on top of that, one of her animals had passed away. And on top of that, had been having severe headaches that they thought might be something severe. In fact, she had just left the hospital upon receiving the results, saying the headaches were a clean bill of health. Her husband had died shortly before all of this. And I felt sick over all the stupid stuff I had done in my life, that here I am in this lady's time of need, the only person that she has to call. But I also realized it was time to let that shame go, because God uses people who are available. So I said, "Grace, how can I help you?" And she says, "I was crying so hard when I left the hospital, I pulled over to the side of the road. I couldn't even see the road. I was crying so hard, and I began to pray to God to help me understand why I was going through all of these tragedies." And I said, "Well, that's certainly the right person to go to." And I said, "Grace, well, What did God tell you? And this is not the peak of the story, by the way. Keep in mind, hadn't talked to this lady in 3 years. She says, well, God told me to call you because you're an angel. At which point I began to cry. Eventually I came to and I asked Grace how I could help her. And she said that she wanted to start a ministry for widow women. And ultimately we discussed that she wanted to call it the Widow's Mite, based upon the parable in the story, in the Bible, of the widow who had donated everything, even though she was poor. I told her I would pray for her daily until God gave me an answer, although I told her it sounded like she had a pretty open line to God herself. I had also thought back to a point in my life where when my grandmother, who had had Alzheimer's for many years, was dying, and I was the last person she remembered, at which point she says, there's my little Johnny boy, my angel from heaven, and she had died shortly after that. So I left the call quite rattled. I went back to work, did my 12 o'clock client, my 1 o'clock client, my 2 o'clock client. Now here's the peak of the story. So thank you for sticking around this long. My 3 o'clock client is a man in Denver who is salt of the earth. He literally converted his company into an employee stock ownership plan company so that he wouldn't see all of his team members as team members, but also as owners of the company. He's also a dad and a husband and someone who survived stage 4 cancer. So we get on our Zoom call, and Andy always basically says in the beginning, great God day. I say it back, and he says, let me guess, it's been a great God week. And I said, yes. Sunday, I got my greatest dad pin. I picked up a new Chick-fil-A to work with. The Marine Corps asked me for a proposal, and then I tell him the story of Grace. At which point, Andy kind of gets the smile on his face, begins to shake. I think maybe the guy's having a stroke. He flops over in his chair, and he re-emerges. He since mailed this to me, and that day, in the mail, he had received a widow's mite and a Roman crucifixion nail. And I'm sitting there going, holy cow. And he's, holy cow. And he said, basically, I had gotten the mail 2 hours earlier. A package had arrived in the mail. I opened the package, you know, like a kid getting a package in the mail. And he said, I thought to myself, why in the world today did I receive a widow's mite? Why in the world did I receive a Roman nail? Well, at that point, he looks at the package, and it had been mailed to him that day by, it was like a corporate chaplain's thing. But the point of the matter, I called a mathematician afterwards, and I said, what are the mathematical odds that all of those things could have happened exactly that way? At that point, I showed him the picture. Andy had sent it to me, and he said they're absolutely 0%. So if you're one of those people sitting around wondering where God is in all of this mess, well, I'll tell you where he is. He's waiting for you to realize you're an angel, and you need to allow God to work through you to solve these challenges of the world, because there's a world scorecard, and those people believe the politicians are going to save us, and they're not. That's delusional. The world is going to be saved by God and by you allowing God to work through you. If you would like to learn a little bit more about this story, leave me a comment. I'm happy to get in touch with you. I tried to keep it as short as I could for this video, but it's actually way deeper than that. We love you, appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.